Last night's Rwanda vote, uh, the rebellion against Rwanda vote, meant that 11 Conservative MPs voted against the bill. That included Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick, and 18 abstained. That's quite significant in terms of a government rebellion against a major piece of government legislation. It's not as bad as it might have been, and it's certainly not as bad as the rebellion against, the rebellion for uh, some of the amendments, particularly the 60 strong rebellion in favour of the amendment on Tuesday. But the fact that the bill has now passed through the first three readings means it now goes to the House of Lords, where it's expected to face even harsher opposition. If the bill becomes law, and there's still an if about this, by the way, then migrants who come to the UK on what are described as illegal routes and then are branded illegal migrants. This is not the international term. It's not the international understanding of what an illegal migrant is, by the way. Are then in a position to be sent to Rwanda to have their asylum requests processed and to remain permanently in Rwanda. That is what separates this proposal completely from, for example, the proposal put forward in Italy using Albania. In Albania, people who come to Italy will be held in a centre. At the moment, it's not going through, but it may well go through in a centre in Albania until they have been processed. Once they've been processed and asylum is granted, they will be returned to Italy to take up their asylum option. It's only Britain which is proposing the idea that it's outsourcing not only the processing of the asylum, but also effectively exiling those asylum seekers to another country in perpetuity. That is what makes it different. And their so called crime is that they've come to the country by an illegal route, because there are very few legal routes, as Suella Braverman agreed on November the 22nd in the end of last year, uh, when she was facing questions in a committee by Tim Lawton. She agreed that there were very few legal routes for people to take, and that therefore the only option for most people who want to seek asylum in the UK, for which there are many good reasons, not least the fact that we have been so successful in teaching English as a foreign language, and that many people have friends and relatives already in the UK and don't speak other European languages, for example, which precludes um, their applying for asylum, let's say, in France, in Germany, in the in Italy, uh, and because we haven't set up an alternative for the Dublin III protocol, we don't know the details of people's passage through Europe, and B, there is no arrangement for returning people to their first port of entry in the European group. So the 61 rebel Conservative MPs who were expected to cause a fuss with the final reading of the bill didn't materialise. President Paul Kagame said there were limits to how long his country was prepared to wait for flights to bring migrants from the UK, adding, if they don't come, we can return the money, talking about the 240 million that has been paid to Kigali for the scheme. The Yolande Makolo in the Rwandan government said, under the terms of the agreement, Rwanda has no obligation to return any of the funds paid. And she said to talk about figures at this point is premature, as we are still awaiting the conclusions of the UK legislative process and remain committed to making the partnership work. So even Paul Kagame's offer of returning money is questionable. It's a rhetorical flourish designed again to put pressure on the rebel MPs. And we have to wait now to see what happens as the bill goes through the House of Lords. I don't imagine that this is going to produce much more than a flutter of migration off to Rwanda, if it's successful at all. It's gesture politics, it's poor politics, and it also demonstrates a complete lack of ethical balance, a lack of political acumen, and in the end, a demonstration of the failure of the Brexit that was negotiated by Lord Frost. Brexit, who knows, Brexit might have been able to work, but not in this form.